slid off the bonnet, went round to the boot, opened the boot and came out with a brown paper bag. And he put his hand in the brown paper bag, pulled out $50, put that in his top pocket. And yes, ladies and gentlemen, it was in 1974 I was first introduced to that brown envelope. Never mind about a certain newspaper that said in 1994 I was first introduced to the brown envelope. Because by 1994 I'd had plenty brown envelopes, believe me. Well, we came second in the league. We won a cup. I finished my O-levels and I said to my mother, "Hey, I'm going to be a goalkeeper." She said, "Which team?" I said, "Matabeleland Islanders." He says, "You better phone the Jocks, the Scottish team." So I phoned the Scottish team. Yes, they'd sold me to another team 500 kilometers away. And it was another African team. I was the third white person to play for them. And it was a brewery team. Now, I didn't mind the brewery part. But the team was rubbish. And the beer was even worse. So 6 weeks later, I decided to go. Well, the 6 weeks that I went away from the team, I went back to Bulawayo. My mother said to me, "What am I going to do?" I said, "Listen, I'm going to Durban, where you took me away from when I was a youngster, where I was born. I'd like to go and see where I was born." She says, "No, you're not. You're going to the barracks to find out when you're going to get called up." Walked into the barracks, Sergeant Major. I said, "My name's Grobbelaar." He looked in the ledger. He said, 6 months' time, you'll be coming into the army. I looked at my mother. I said, 6 months' time? I'll be surfing in Durban. With that, he told my mother that there was a new intake going in there next morning, and she grabbed my hand and I signed like that. Now, I went in and signed for 1 year. We had 35 days to go, and they put up our intake for another 6 months, so I ended up doing 18 months. Well, I didn't not only do 18 months. On the last day that we were going to pass out, they gave us our kit and we went back into the army and we did 2 years. And that's probably defined who I am today, because I saw atrocities that you could never imagine. And you guys that are here today, you don't want to see those things that I saw. And probably that is why I took the stance in becoming probably who I am today. I left and I went straight down to Durban, South Africa. Signed for a team called Durban City. On this day, they had a little goalkeeping seminar. And then the goalkeeping coach was Roy Bailey, Gary Bailey's father. After that goalkeeping seminar, he went to the club that I signed for. He said, "Don't worry about this goalkeeper called Bruce Grobbelaar. He won't be a goalkeeper as long as he's got a hole in his arse." Well, that stuck in my head, and I put myself and my ability together. I worked hard. And today, you're looking at the highest decorated goalkeeper in the history of the English League. And the winner is Gary Bailey. I was there at Durban City for 18 months. And then comes my second brown envelope. I opened this brown envelope. It said, "Dear Corporal Grobbelaar, 108085. You're hereby notified that in 6 months' time you're going to 32 Squadron of the South African Defence Force. You're going to be sent to Angola because you're a good tracker." I said to the mate that I was staying with, "This is not happening." He says, "Listen, it's 6 months' time." Well, 6 weeks later, he gave me another brown envelope. I opened it up. There's a letter from West Bromwich Albion, a ticket for me to go there. And Ron Atkinson, the manager, inviting me over for a trial. So I went over to West Bromwich Albion. I was there for 5 months on a South African passport. Couldn't get a work permit. So on the very last day, I went back into the office. I said to Ron, "Listen, I'm going back to South Africa." He says, "No, don't do that. I've got one more thing up my sleeve. I've got a mate down in Bournemouth. He's the manager there. See if he can try and swindle you a work permit." His name was Harry Redknapp. When I was down there a week, I couldn't get a work permit, and I came back. And I walked into the dressing room. The assistant manager, Colin Addison, said to me, "Beg, borrow, or steal a vehicle. Get yourself to Derby County. there's a goalkeeper there, there's a manager of Vancouver Whitecaps, they need a goalkeeper. So I did. Ladies and gentlemen, I did the latter. I stole the vehicle. I was staying at the the Norfolk Hotel, Hagley Road in Birmingham, and the receptionist, Julie, I pinched her keys and I drove up to Derby County, did the little warm-up and training session with Tony Waiters. At the end, yes, he wanted me to sign, so I drove back happily. And as I got to the front of the hotel, I noticed there's a police car, Julie and 2 policemen. So I quickly went round the block and parked the vehicle at the back of the hotel, walked round the front, and I said, "What's the matter, Julie?" She said, "Someone's pinched my car." I said, "Are you sure?" She said, "Yes, I parked it here this morning." I said, "Well, I've just walked from the back of the hotel. I'm sure that's your vehicle there. Take these lovely gentlemen and see if that's your vehicle," which she did. I ran into the reception, put the keys down, put my paper over top of it, and I got away with that one as well. Well, I found myself in Vancouver. I played 3 games for Vancouver, and their manager comes to me and he says, "Listen, Bruce, I'm going to send you back to Britain. I'm going to send you to the strongest team in the English League." So immediately I thought, yo, Liverpool. Oh, maybe Man City, oh, geez, oh, maybe it's West Brom, maybe Portsmouth. You never know. He said, "Listen, you don't have to worry about that. They're the strongest team in the league because they're 92nd in the Football League. You're going to Crewe Alexander." Well, I go to Crewe Alexander in October, same passport, same problem, can't get a work permit. By December, I think, well, listen, I've got to ring someone. So I rang my mother. I said, "Mum, you come from British stock. They need to know if I've got a grandfather that's born on British soil." She said, "Try this one, son." My grandfather, your great-grandfather, was in the Lancashire Fusiliers during the Boer War. He was stationed in the Cape Town fort, now called the castle, and in 1903, my father, your grandfather, was born in the castle, a British stronghold during the Boer War. So I took all this information down to Croydon, went in the office, put it underneath there. She went away. 2 hours later, she asked for the passport and she stamps it and says school visa. Boom. Yes, I can play. Well, just imagine if I'd known that a year earlier. Yeah, I would be left playing with the bloody baggies. I dodged that bullet as well. I played 24 games for Crewe Alexander. 20 times. The manager came to me, Tony Waddington, he said, "Manchester City's watching you today." Well, I came here on the second last game of the season. We played here at Pompey. Pompey needed 2 points to go up that day, and they didn't score. But we drew 1-1. There was one person that scored both goals. He was an Irishman called Mickey Guy. He scored for Pompey first, and then he scored an equaliser for Crewe Alexander. And so Pompey had to wait for the last game of the season to go up, which they did, thankfully. Crewe Alexander, on the other hand, last game of the season, 3rd of May 1980, the manager comes to me and he says, "Listen, Bruce, you've done fantastically well. With that, you're going to be captain today." He says, "No, we're not 92nd in the Football League anymore. We're 86th. For the first time in 3 years, we don't have to write to the league to ask them to come back in. So you're the captain. But there's 2 very important people coming to watch you to play today. Please don't do something stupid." I said, "Me?" Well, as we were going out for our warm-up, I noticed that it was raining, so I said to Mavis, the tea lady, "May I borrow your umbrella?" And I went out and I did my warm-up with the umbrella. After I did the warm-up, picked up the umbrella, came back into the dressing room to see the boss going like this. I said, "What's the matter, Gaffer?" He said, "You know those 2 very important people that came to watch you play?" I said, "What do you mean came to watch me?" He says, "Yes, they buggered off to go and watch Stoke City play Port Vale now." Well, 12 weeks later, I got my next brown envelope in Vancouver.